My name is Devoid Davis, and for the next few minutes, I'm going to be sharing with you some ideas on how prudent financial management can help you in business and in life. For this session, we'll cover 3 topics. We'll start by talking about income and expenses, then we'll talk about savings, and finally, we'll cover budgeting, and I'll share with you 2 or 3 budgeting formulas that have been proven to work. The first concept is that of understanding an income. So, what is an income? An income, simply put, is money earned for work or through investments. However, you can have an income even if you're a student or a teen or as a child. This income could be in the form of an allowance, a gift, or a grant. The next thing to understand is what is an expense. And an expense is anything that you have to pay for. In monetary terms, an expense is the money that you spend on things. So it's important to note that oftentimes your income is actually someone else's expense. Your expenses can fit into 2 categories. One is needs and the second one is wants. So what's the difference? Simply put, a need is something that is required for your survival. And you would all be familiar with the 3 basic needs. That's food, shelter, and clothing. On the other hand, a want is something that you desire, but you can actually live without. An example would be your cell phone or your tablet. The difference between your income and your expenses is what we call your disposable income. And that disposable income is what we can use for savings or investing. And that leads us to the second concept that we want to cover. The second concept, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, is that of saving. And saving simply means keeping a part of what you earned. Saving is particularly important because it allows us to do the next best thing, which is to invest. Having savings is also a good way to keep us out of bad debt. There is also good debt, but we won't talk about that just yet. There are different ways to save, but one effective way is to have an amount in mind and then to start putting money aside with the aim of reaching that amount. This is what we call goal-oriented savings. Another type of saving is time-oriented saving. And for this, we're putting money aside on a predetermined basis for a fixed amount of time. So lastly, let's talk about budgeting. And a budget is simply a plan for your income and your expenses. So we talked about how even as children, teens, and students, you have an income. It is therefore wise to look at how we can budget that income so we have money left over to save and eventually to invest. I want to share 2 common budgeting formulas. The first formula is the 10-10-80 formula. And this formula suggests that we should save 10% of our income, give 10% to charity, and use the remaining 80% for our expenses. And this would include both our needs and our wants. The next budgeting formula is called the 20-30-50 formula. And this formula recommends that you put 50% towards your needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% towards savings. To end this video, I want to remind you that these are suggestions or recommendations. You might not be in a position to save 20% of your income. Similarly, you might be in a position where all your needs and wants are already taken care of and you can save 50-60% of your income. The key here is to keep a budget, to remember to save such that you can eventually invest when those opportunities arise.